I feel very much at home here because I'm back at home. I'm an assistant pastor of a Sofia church, but by profession, and I keep doing that as my full-time job. My background is in organizational communications, and I used to have my own company for about 10 years, consulting company. After over a decade in corporate communications, and it was a company that was called Culture and People. So I'm focused on researching, understanding organizational culture. And for 10 years I did that, and last year I was invited by one of my clients, a very large German industrial organization called Aurubis. I joined their team. I froze my own consulting practice, and I joined their team as the manager of people and culture, meaning that I am responsible for the development of a healthy organizational culture and the development of our great team. Aurubis is in Bulgaria. It is the biggest business organization, generating 7% of the import of the whole country. So it is quite an interesting and complex job for me. But I'm not here, this is why I feel at home here, very much at home. Organizations are very much a big part of my life, leadership also. I'm currently starting my PhD in organizational anthropology, trying to understand how a certain aspect of communications impacts and creates culture. So we can talk a lot about that, but we will focus on conflict. And this is not intended to be a lecture. This is intended to be sort of a simulation, okay? Such a wonderful group of people, and I really want to introduce you to a case study. It is a real-life case study, and if we have time in the end, I will tell you the real story behind it. But what you're going to see and what you're going to try and solve is actually a real case. Of course, all the names and details have been changed, but I believe you will recognize faces and situations, okay? So let me introduce you to Lighthouse Ministries. The ministry began in Vienna, 2003, a small Christian outreach program. It was founded by a former business executive. His name is Thomas. In his late 40s, he had a profound spiritual experience. God told him to quit his business and invest his time into Christian ministry. He started with 3 volunteers, small basement, and their initial focus was providing job training, social assistance to refugees from the Middle East and trying to share the gospel with them alongside the social work that they were doing. So this is sort of the context, and this is our good friend Thomas. Thank you, ChatGPT, for helping me generate Thomas. Thomas is not a real person, I have to warn you. But the AI friend of mine helped me greatly. So in order you need to know several things about Thomas. This is very, very important for the case study, for our simulation today. First of all, he has great relational strength, okay? Thomas is very relational, as you can imagine. This is his superpower. He remembers everybody's name. He remembers their children's birth dates. He remembers their prayer requests, okay? So he's very pastoral. And also he's very intuitive. He relies heavily on prayer and being led in his decision-making process. Because, this is how he started the organization. This is part of the DNA. And also he prefers to smooth things out. He really hates direct confrontations, okay? So this is just who he is. And everybody loves Thomas, as you can imagine, yeah? Also, he's a humble servant. He firmly believes in servant leadership approaches. He still helps clean up after events, like even today. He finds this as humbling and very, very vital for his DNA as a leader. He feels a limited comfort with technology. Like he's not the geek, and he has a deep pastoral gift. He genuinely cares about the spiritual and overall well-being of everybody under his care and leadership. So this is who Thomas is, a wonderful, wonderful person. Now we switch to the history. This ministry started growing really fast. In Vienna, 5 years, from 3 to 15 volunteers serving local churches and local communities. In 2009, they won their first major grant, so they were able to afford 5 people on staff. In 2011, this is a very, very crucial point in our story. A young man named Adrian joined as a program coordinator, fresh from seminary, and Thomas befriended him right away. He loved the guy, and he became his mentor. And then in 2013, basically, Thomas asked Adrian to, this isn't working, basically Thomas asked Adrian to oversee the expansion in Slovakia, their first out of the country office. So until here, it's clear, right? It is a growing organization. Then, quick growth, 2015, you all remember probably most of the European refugee crisis. This organization was spot on in terms of service and experience. So a lot of Christian foundations started giving them grants, and Adrian was asked to develop the overall plan for growing, the growth plan. Then rapid expansion, Hungary, Poland, and Adrian is promoted to oversee all operations. So like an operations manager or something like that. Then they have new products. They reached partners in Germany, France, UK, Belgium. Currently, in 2003, they were operating in 6 countries with 44 staff members. So a decent-sized, not too big, not too small Christian organization. And now, of course, you have to meet Adrian. Adrian is a very interesting character. He's a more what you call systems thinker. He sees inefficiencies and he sees opportunities for improvement. Just like you talk to him and he's like, yeah, we can improve that, we can do that. He's a very driven innovator. He constantly researches new ways to do things. He's very data oriented. He loves data. He wants metrics and evidence, but at the same time, he's scripture loving. So he's genuinely founding his approaches, management, leadership, and organizational decision-making on scriptures, and he's very, very faithful to that. He's a very proactive communicator. He loves people, and he believes the best for people is to have clarity. So he gives direct feedback. Okay, he's very direct in his feedback. He's gentle, but he's very direct. He's a passionate missionary, and despite his more professional demeanor, he has a genuine heart for the people, and he really wants to reach and help people. He's very process-driven, so he believes that growing organizations need clear processes, clear job roles, and a lot of accountability. And he's a bit impatient with inefficiency. He gets frustrated when communications or processes are not really working well. Okay? So this is who our two friends, two protagonists in this wonderful story is. And this is your first question, so around the tables, you've got 3 or 4 minutes. You have 2 questions. Do you see any whatsoever conflict potential at Lighthouse Ministries? Where is it? Just everybody speak up. We don't have to go table about it. Personality type, very good. Very good. So decision-making approaches and how we make decisions, so value behind.
One's more of a leader focused on people, one's more a manager focused on process.
Okay, so you see ones as more human-oriented, sort of, yeah. And the other one is more like, okay, we need clear processes so that people are well. Okay, very good.
It's all about goals.
Different goals? You see different goals?
No, they've both got the same goal.
Uh-huh.
But the focus is on the goals for both of them.
Okay.
They do it in different ways,
Okay.
but they both have a focus on goals.
Okay, so this is something in common, is it?
They have it in common, but the different ways that they get there.
Okay, I agree. Yeah, this is a conflict potential. Okay, very good. Anything else?
The team may prefer one style of leadership above the other.
This is you're more correct than you know, as you will see. There is something prophetic about you, I can tell. But yes, you are correct. It is obvious. Something is brewing. And part of the problem, of course, part of the potential problem, of course, is that one of the guys is now also in position of power. Okay, so if Adrian was a volunteer, whatever, but there is something changing there in terms of the power. And this is in the authority within the organization. So this is very, very interesting. But let us continue with our story, because this is not the end of it, sadly. Now, stage 1, the signs. Thomas poses a process optimization project that Adrian initiated, citing the need for more prayer about this direction. Adrian schedules a couple of team meetings when Thomas is away on donor visits. Staff members notice Thomas verbally supporting Adrian's ideas in meetings, but later questioning them privately. Adrian begins copying various team members on operational emails that previously only went to Thomas. Thomas emphasizes the ministry's founding principles more frequently in staff devotions. Adrian creates a strategic planning committee without including several of Thomas's longtime colleagues. Their once mentoring lunches become less frequent, with both finding excuses to reschedule. As an organizational consultant, you are the consultants, more or less. You have an external point of view. It is clear that something is going on, right? You have no idea how unclear this is from the inside of the organization. There is something going on, but it's not clear. It is so. This is why I'm saying the signs, and you can use this slide as sort of a diagnostic tool of signs of something brewing, something going on, something. There is something, and should we be worried? This is a question for you. Should we be worried here? Yes. Why? You look worried. Wonder why? Why is that? It is a question again. Very good. Starting to silo.
And the best practices are not applied in this case. Also about email transparency.
Okay. So there is something that's being broken about communication as well. Okay, what else?
One team is becoming two teams.
The silo, so it's not only the two people siloing, but it's more like building camps now. You can see that. So this is what I do for a living. From observing how communication works or doesn't work, I can tell, or I can try and tell, the pains of a culture. Because you have to remember, cultures are created through human interactions. This is how cultures are born. There is no other way. It is very funny for me when global corporations, they will do their culture workshops with their senior leadership team. And they will define their organizational values. And they will put them on the website and in walls around the organization. Yes, sir. I absolutely love you. What is your name, sir? Bartosz. I absolutely love you because you just made the transition to my next slide. Thank you. I could not have planned better. What is actually going on here? Just trying to, sort of help them a little bit. And what's going on actually is a very deep dynamic within each of them. And I discovered that in the real case scenario. But what was really interesting is, and let's see now, what is going on in Thomas's head? You tell me now. What is going on in Thomas's head?
He believes the best.
He believes the best?
Of Adrian.
Okay.
He's like, no, he would never do that to me. I'm his mentor.
Okay.
We talk regularly.
Okay, but does it doubt? He wants to re-educate, remind him of...
So it's coming from a good place because he's not a direct communicator. It kind of
Okay.
maybe that's
Okay.
how I would do it.
Yes, sir, please. Yeah. Let me tell you about my research. Thomas was increasingly worried that the ministry is becoming just another NGO and losing its spiritual foundation. So this was his deepest fear. He didn't start this for that. Okay? This is the deepest fear, losing the spiritual DNA of the organization. He was proud of growth. He was very happy. Let's say happy, like not proud of, oh, we did great things, but he was seeing God's work, but he was secretly overwhelmed by the complexity. It was just horrifying to him. He was feeling obsolete in conversations because they were becoming more and more technical. So he did not feel he could contribute very, very much. He was hesitant to retire because his identity was deeply tied to the ministry. This was his baby. Yeah? He was called by God in his late career to do this great sacrifice.
What his wife says about him.
Well, I did not have the chance to speak to his wife. And he was concerned that Adrian may be too business-minded and process-focused. Basically, he said, he is a good guy, but he is blind to the fact that his approaches will destroy the organization. Okay? This is not an easy place to be. Now talk to me about the other guy, our good friend Adrian. Most people treat him as the evil guy in the story. Okay? So just saying. I did, while preparing for this session, this is what I developed this for the forum. But I tried it with a group of international leaders 3 weeks before I came here, just to make sure that it works. Everybody treated Adrian like the bad guy. So this is very interesting now. Prove me wrong. Is he the bad guy? No, thank you very much.
He was hired to do a job, and God gifted him
All right.
a unique ability.
All right.
So he is just doing his best. He's responding to his calling, helping this.
All right. But what's in his head? What is in his heart? What's going on there? Progress. He wants progress. Efficiency, clarity.
He doesn't mind complexity and making sense of that.
Okay, so
Chaos.
you think he's striving more in the growth. This is what you're saying. Okay, I'm just curious. What do you think?
He's thinking that growth needs some coordination. Needs some.
Okay. Just a second. Yeah. No, please. Stewardship. Okay.
In the sense of recognizing the resources and the opportunities and wanting to steward that efficiently and effectively for the glory of God.
Please, and then you, Sofia.
I think maybe he's feeling held back by the constraints of the guy he's working for.
Okay.
He's expected to do so much more. He's like,
Yeah, I was going to ask, is there something that he has a problem with? So thank you. Please. Okay. A lot of people raise that point. If he's so direct and so open, why is he doing what he's doing? So Thomas is Adrian is deeply grateful to Thomas. Deeply grateful. He in the interviews, he many times, very sincerely, said that without Thomas's mentorship and guidance and love, he was not going to become what he is. But at the same time, there is increasing frustration by what Adrian perceives as Thomas's inability and lack of desire to change. Because the organization is changing, we need new approaches. It is obvious, and he wants to say the same. He wants to say the same. And this deeply frustrated him. Then he believes the ministry could double its impact only if we change like 10%, 15%. If we improve 15%, we can double the impact. It's so clear to me. It is obvious. That's why I'm pushing for these little things, like have an impact measurement system and do that. And he keeps resisting. He keeps saying no, and we're losing great opportunities. We're sort of exactly the wings are being clipped. And he's anxious about organization's financial sustainability because he's like, when we were a team of 5, yeah, but now it's 44 people that we need to, pay salaries and look after them, and it's their families and it's their futures, and they invested. Some of them risked a lot coming to work for us. So this guy's deeply caring for the organization, deeply. But he's also afraid because he sees the numbers. It's one thing to raise money for 3 people. It's another thing to raise money for operations in 7 countries with 50 people staff. It's a completely different story in his mind. So this is his version. And he feels caught between loving Thomas and pursuing the changes that he sees are vital for the organization. And this creates this conflict within him, and he cannot resolve it. This is why he cannot speak directly to Thomas. Because he does not want to hurt him, and at the same time, he's deeply frustrated. And this creates a phenomenal tension within this man. And also, one of his big fears was that donors still see the organization as Thomas's ministry, rather than a sustainable organization that you give because this is a sustainable Christian organization, rather than, there's this wonderful man named Thomas, because he said, when Thomas retires or dies, will all of this stop? So it needs to grow beyond Thomas. But he understands that if he shared this to Thomas, Thomas will feel like, because of the identity issue, Thomas will feel like he's trying to replace him. And this is why he says, I won't talk to him. This is not my goal. I don't want to replace him. But we have to move on. So I don't know what to do. It is a very interesting situation. Do you agree? When you're a consultant from the outside. From the inside, it is a crazy, difficult situation. Yeah? Awful situation. And the first thing I want you to remember, so this is me teaching you on this slide, and that's it, probably, but there is a deeply personal and emotional aspect to every conflict. Please remember that. A lot of times we approach organizational conflict as math problems. If we do this and this and this and this, objective actions, it will be solved. That is never the case. Never. There is more, the human layer of every conflict is way deeper than the operational layer. You have to solve the human layer. You have to heal, I would say, the human layer. Then you can easily solve the organizational layer. You don't address the human layer, you're wasting your time and resources of the organization. But unfortunately, we have a stage 2. So while this is happening, the organization keeps going. Organizational life, meetings, etc., it keeps happening. So what do you think happens? During a strategic meeting, Thomas and Adrian have a heated exchange about budget priorities. Thomas starts emphasizing relational ministry. Adrian starts defending investment in systems that are needed. Adrian discusses his ideas about the next 5 years informally with some board members without first running them by Thomas. Just, mentioning something. Thomas begins reaching out directly to country directors, bypassing Adrian's established communication channels. How are you doing? What's up? Listen, I need you to do this for me and that for me. And he starts changing the agenda of the countries. A little bit of here, a little bit there. He tries to control, make sure everything is okay. Adrian openly questions Thomas's fundraising approach as too personality-driven during a leadership meeting. Thomas rejects Adrian's proposal for a new impact measurement system, calling it worldly thinking. Everybody's like, we want to go now. To go out and it is a very bad feeling, uncomfortable. It's like you're witnessing that and you're like, oh my God, Daddy and Mommy are having a fight. This is how employees feel. Yeah, let me tell you. Staff members begin taking sides. What a surprise. With newer employees aligning with Adrian, he hired them. And veterans, generally, with Thomas. A major church partner expresses concern after witnessing uncomfortable tension between the two at a ministry event. So things are getting out of control. The whole organization suffers. Now, of course, I don't have a magic formula. If you believe that I will give you, this is what I did and this is how to solve it, well, you'll be disappointed. Unfortunately, I have just a lesson learned the hard way. But before that, you are the consultants now, around your tables. You have several minutes. Advise me, what needs to be done? This is where we are. This is where I sort of entered the equation for this organization. What do you do? I hear you. It's a tough case to crack, eh? It's a very, very, very nasty situation. Because even as the board, you can have like all the plans you want to make, but you never know how people are going to react. You never know the impact on the teams. You never know the impact on donors. So it's a difficult thing. It was interesting with the previous group that I tried this with them, so that I see if it works. They were so heated, but it was very interesting because when I asked them about the board question, they were like, oh, we're firing the young guy. They were like, I was like, okay, elaborate, please. They're like, well, if he doesn't respect the founding principles of the organization, he's definitely leading the organization somewhere where we don't want the organization to be. This was their thinking. Okay, so this is, and he's like, oh, well, see, now there is a conflict in the board. Welcome. Obviously, Adrian or Thomas did not call me. They were not like, hey, I've got a problem with this dude. Could you come and tell me what's wrong with him? That rarely happens. Oh, even though I've very often experienced as a consultant, management calling me and say, come fix my team. When I hear that, I'm like, 100% of the cases, I tell them, the client, I'm like, I will start my research, and I'm 100% sure, by the way you frame the brief for me, that it is going to show that they have a problem with you. I'm 100% sure. But just by this statement, because this mechanical way of thinking, fix shows a metaphor of the team that is a mechanical metaphor. If the manager, the leader, has a mechanical metaphor for the team and not an organic metaphor, a tree, a garden, ecosystem, body, whatever, this presupposes that he uses external consultants to fix things, like he calls a mechanical engineer to fix a bolt or something like that. And it doesn't work this way. So I'm almost 100% sure that this manager has mechanized a lot of the relationship inside, and people do not want to work for him or her. So I can guarantee this, based just on the language. That's a fantastic, fantastic transition to my next slide. And that's the real story behind Lighthouse Ministries. I promise you that. As a consultant, I've been in this situation numerous times. My team and I worked 3 years ago on a very complex post-merger integration of 3 software companies. One of them is a very big Bulgarian software company, world famous because they designed the software that stands behind, for instance, like behind Marvel's, all the special effects of Marvel are done in their software. So they're world famous. They got an Oscar for special effects. So they're a very famous company. And they were merging with a German company, and they were merging with a Macedonian company, and they completed the business merge. But it was a complete mess in terms of culture and people. It was disastrous. So me and my team, we went in, and we had people crying during interviews. We were laughing because my team is a Christian. I have a Christian team, psychologists and researchers, and we were laughing that it's half pastoral care and counseling, half research, which I do believe you can pastor people in secular settings without them understanding. It's a completely different topic. But we've been in these situations many, many times with mostly non-Christian organizations, but also Christian organizations. But I was Adrian, personally, years ago. So this is sort of the story of my life. And so it was very easy for me to describe both viewpoints. It was easier to describe Adrian's. Back in the day, I would say I won't say I'm more like Thomas now, but this is my story. And it was crazy difficult, the most difficult moment of my life, when I had to face and challenge my longtime mentor and the closest thing I would call to a spiritual father because of his inefficiency. And he directly said to me, "Your approach is going to destroy us." This was very painful to hear. So I would say out of this situation, I learned a lot. And I will show you a way to deal with that. And you are so experienced leaders. This is why I'm not trying to sort of teach you. I'm trying to just, encourage insight and sharing. That's my approach with you. I hope you don't feel this as a lecture. But it's deeply troubling when we are in a conflict. It is almost impossible to stand out of the conflict and say, "Oh, this is what's happening," because the emotions and the fear and the lies and the hopes and the disappointment and the bitterness, this is all taking grasp of us, and it distorts the picture. It's very difficult to deal with this ourselves. But I believe, honestly, in my bones, I believe that as Christian leaders, we are best equipped for conflict. compared to anybody else under the sun. And unfortunately, I'm saying this, unfortunately, because it's a very difficult thing to be in conflict as a Christian. I would say it's much easier in the beginning to be in a conflict as a non-Christian, because you can either go or you can use power to solve the conflict. You can fire the guy and that's it. And for us, sometimes we feel like weak because we can't make the right decision, because a person from the world will make, because we have so many other things that sort of stop us from being to rush or whatever, and we feel weak, we feel hesitant, we feel confused by that. But let me tell you, you should not feel this way. As Christian leaders, we are the people on the planet that are best equipped to deal with conflict in terms of value and virtue that we are supposed to have. It's in our DNA to solve conflict like this. Not easy, but in a healthy, healing, I would say, way of resurrection even. Because there are several simple principles that guide conflict for Christian people. First, we are called for servanthood. The world does not understand that. Even those, like Robert Greenleaf's essay, Servant Leadership, it's fashionable to talk about servant leadership. The world, even when they say they understand that, unless they have something to do in common with Christian faith, they have no idea what they're talking about. Okay. But in Mark, our Lord said, whoever wants to become great among you must be a servant. Whoever wants to be the first must be slave to all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and give his life as a ransom for many. So in my situation back then, this was one of the first verses that I was reminded, I believe by the Spirit, that there is only one option for me. And this is to become a slave, a servant. And of course, this does not mean disagree about processes or say, yeah, we don't need processes, we don't need fundraising. No, but not try to use forceful power to solve the conflict. This is a key. It's very, very crucial. It's very difficult for people in the world who are Nietzschean. You know, in the world of power. Power is what drives things. This is what they believe. We don't. The second thing, it is a very, very, very scary thing that we have a condition for being accepted by God. And this condition is making peace with the other. And this is a very scary thing in such a situation. Yeah? If you're making an offering at the altar and there comes to your mind that your brother has something against you, go and make peace with your brother before you give your offering. This is as simple as it gets. There's not much to be added. Go and make peace. Yeah, but this kills my ego. Yeah, but you're just a servant. What ego? Oh my God. When you add to this that we are called to step away from human anger, this does not mean that we do not get angry, but we cannot afford to be angry in the way secular people are, because this brings destruction and desolation. And our anger should be holy, whatever that means. But everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger, for human anger does not accomplish God's righteousness. And love even your enemies. And when forgiveness and kindness are the norm, and suddenly you realize that you're called to do something that is extra human. It is supernatural in its core, at its core. It is phenomenal, and it is impossible to do by yourself. But you are called to do that. So this is why I say Christian leaders are best equipped for conflict. Of course, we do not handle conflict like people in the world, but we are best equipped for it in terms of self-managing, in terms of choosing the right thing even when it means dying on the cross, crucified death as leaders, in terms of even stepping down from our power position to choose the role of a servant when you're a Christian leader. There were several pastors in the group that I told you about when I tried this. And they're like, do you mean that the church that I founded If this happens, I need to step down and give it to the guy. And we had this wonderful discussion. Who owns the church that they founded? Who leads the church that they founded? We had a wonderful discussion about it. And I had the same conversation with God when I had to close my consultancy last year, 2023, because it was the most profitable, the best year in the history of the company. And in the end of the year, this client comes, this production company, they say, join the team. I'm like, are you crazy? Are you crazy? Like, I'm working for international companies, a lot of projects, this and that. I have a team. And then I went home and I started praying, and it was absolutely what God wanted me to do. I was like, this is madness. Why? This is my company. And then suddenly, I was like, really? Really? This is my company. I built the company. Really? When I look back and see all the grace that's being poured out, all the miracles, all the open doors, all the things that God has done, is it my company really? Is it really mine? No, it's not. Your organizations are not yours in this aspect. You don't own them in this aspect. We are all stewards. And if God wants us to step down and become servants, if He wants Thomas to step down and serve Adrian, He should do it. If He wants Adrian to calm down and serve Thomas, let me tell you, He should do it. So, very quickly, so that there is a practical outcome of our meeting, I recommend several small things in this situation that you can do. First of all, I would involve an external person as the board of the organization. I do believe the board needs to be involved, and the board should be able to see these signs, and they should sort of self-involve. They should be like, what is going on here? So then I would advise, invite an external consultant. Sometimes when you involve an external person, even the fact that someone is listening to what people are saying is healing, at least the beginning of healing. And then I would invite, instead of jumping into organizational decisions, I would take these guys out on a 1 or 2 or 3 day retreat. I would say 1 or 2 day retreat. And an external mediator, because please remember, and I have 4 insights for you over there in this little box on each slide. If you want to solve human conflict successfully, you need to create a safe space for open dialogue. And this takes time, effort, and oftentimes, especially in Western cultures, feels counterproductive. We need to make decisions now, not talk. Okay? You need to make time and space for a conversation, and it needs to be safe space. Second, when you gather them, you have one main task, and this is to restore their dignity. This might surprise you, but both men have their dignity violated, deeply violated by the other. They feel rejected, they feel unappreciated, they feel not listened to. Their contribution they feel that the other person thinks that their contribution is insignificant or simply wrong. One of the most painful things, I say again, was to hear this mentor of mine to tell me that my efforts will destroy us. This violates my dignity. But so did I, when I told him that his inability to change, lack of desire to change, and do what's needed for the organization will destroy the organization. So basically, we have the same fear, that we are destroying the organization. Which is good, because we care for the organization. Okay? But it violates our dignity. And dignity is restored by being listened to deeply, without interruptions, by being given the floor, the space and time to speak your heart. And this should be mediated, but this is how it's done. This is what restores dignity. And my third insight is that after dignity is restored, you need to work on trust. You can't work trust before you restore dignity, because this is how it works. But when you restore dignity, it's time to work on trust. So I would say in the break, well, I forgot about the left side. So one person is given 60 minutes, for instance, to speak. The other one is not allowed to interrupt them, and they're required to take notes. This is very simple. First of all, when you take notes, you listen. Second, when you take notes, you don't speak. And third, when you take notes, the other person sort of thinks that you're listening. And you can't fake taking notes for 60 minutes. You can fake it for like 5. You can't fake it for 60. So it gives a powerful signal that you are actually listening, which happened for the first time in many months. Yeah? And this is the first signal for restoring dignity. Then there is a coffee break after that, because it's a very, very hard session. Then the facilitator puts the main points from the discussion. And it's going to be a good thing to encourage them to do a short walk in the forest by themselves after this first session. Let me tell you. Some screaming, shouting, crying. It will be very, very... You need a forest, almost certain. Or a sea, either. Or a forest by the sea. That would be the perfect retreat location. Then the facilitator does something very interesting. She asks each leader to go into the shoes of the other side and try to interpret their own behavior through the eyes of the other. They have the artifacts, what we anthropologists call the artifacts of the conversation, on the wall. All the beliefs, like the two people are on the wall, just like I did on the slides. Yeah, the two people are on the wall. These are the fears, these are the beliefs, these are the viewpoints. And now I ask each of the leaders to shift their perspective and to say, if I were Thomas, this is how I would have felt. This is how the world would have seemed to me. And this is very powerful. This is also very powerful. I wonder what's more powerful. And if you do that, this starts restoring trust. Because I not only felt heard, which restores my dignity, but now the other person is making an attempt to see the world through my eyes, which puts us in a fantastic situation, because I can trust someone who does that. And you are allowed to correct them, to give nuances, to explain. And this is what you do before lunch, and it's time for lunch. And after lunch, you can involve the board. And you can have the leaders present each other's perspectives to the board. And you can start talking about the impact this had on the organization. You can start sharing stories, etc., etc. So this is creating a common space now. And common plans and vision are possible only when dignity and trust are restored. And from here, you can go wherever you want. You can make plans for the future. You can make the second date because the retreat location is so nice and you need extra discussions. You can do whatever you want.